Studio microphone. Before we dive into today's epic sci-fi tale of betrayal, survival, and vengeance, make sure to hit that like button if you love stories where humans overcome impossible odds. Drop a comment if you think you'd survive on a frozen alien planet, and don't forget to subscribe for more weekly HFY adventures just like this one. Now, let's get into. They tried to kill the human scout, then his snow lions arrived from the storm. The storm was a wall of white fury, the kind that stripped flesh from bone and turned steel brittle. Lieutenant Mason Core crouched low behind a jagged outcrop of frozen stone, his environmental suit groaning against the pressure of the wind. Snow knifed sideways across his visor, and the HUD flickered intermittently, struggling to maintain a signal through the electromagnetic interference native to Glosiris 9. He checked his wrist scanner. The terrain ahead was clean, no life signs, no movement, but Core knew better. He wasn't the only one out here. He turned, raising a gloved hand toward the alien squad trailing behind him. A trio of figures materialized from the white fog, tall, wrapped in sleek thermal armor, their elongated frames perfectly adapted to cold environments. The lead figure, Commander Vurask, made a sharp gesture to halt. His voice buzzed through Core's earpiece. Visibility is compromised. We delay until conditions stabilize. Core narrowed his eyes. If we delay, we miss the satellite window. No uplink means no evac beacon. We stay out here another day and one of us loses a limb, or worse. You seem eager to move ahead, human, Vurask replied, voice syrupy with disdain. Perhaps you wish to separate again? Core bit his tongue. It wasn't the first time Vurask had made his contempt known. Ever since they'd been assigned to this multi-species survey mission by the Accord's Exploration Corps, Vurask and his crew had treated him like a liability. A threat. The unpredictable human, armed with guts and instinct instead of biometric modeling and neural consensus calculations. But they needed him. No one knew the terrain like Core. He'd done 3 solo recon tours across Glosiris 9. He'd been the one to first chart the Frostworm caves. The one who learned to detect avalanche frequencies by ear. The one who survived a 4-day wideout with a broken transmitter and 2 dead teammates. Give me 10 minutes to scout the ridge, Core said. I'll radio back if it's safe. No, Vurask said flatly. We go together. That was new. Vurask had never insisted on unity before. Usually they were happy to let the human go ahead like a bloodhound. Core's gut twitched, a silent alarm tripping in the back of his skull. He glanced at the others, Sub-Officer Chell of the insectoid Velari, and Zex, a 6-eyed, hairless reptilian from the frost-dwelling crawl. Neither met his gaze. Still he nodded. Then let's move. They trudged forward through waist-high drifts, the wind howling like a dying animal. Every footstep was a gamble. Underneath the crust of snow could be anything. A jagged ice shelf, a thin sheet hiding a 20-meter drop. Core led carefully, reading the terrain like scripture. He could almost hear the mountain breathing. They reached a narrow pass between 2 jagged pillars of blue ice. Core stepped in first, scanning the walls. That was when it hit him, the silence. The wind had dropped suddenly. Too suddenly. He turned. Vurask's weapon was already raised. The shot caught him center mass. His environmental suit flared with emergency pressure patches, but the kinetic force hurled him backward. He slammed into the ice and collapsed into the snow. He heard Chell speaking, her voice clicking rapidly. He's still alive. Vital signs decreasing but not terminated. Leave him, Vurask said. The storm will finish what we started. Why now? Core croaked, blood bubbling in his throat. You need me. We've mapped what we need, Vurask replied coldly. The Accord doesn't want scouts they cannot control. Your instincts make you dangerous. The last thing Core saw was Zex dropping a locator beacon into the snow, blinking red. The signal it emitted would mark his body for retrieval later, if there was anything left to find. Then they turned and vanished into the storm. Time stretched. Minutes or hours passed, he couldn't tell. Pain pulsed like a drumbeat through his side. Blood pooled beneath him, freezing as it touched the snow. His visor dimmed. His breath was shallow, misting up the inside of his helmet. So this was it. Dying on a backwater planet, betrayed by allies he never trusted, buried in a place no one would remember. Then the sound came. Faint at first. A low growl, nearly swallowed by the wind. Then another. And another. Shapes emerged from the blizzard. Massive. Silent. White as the snow but darker around the mane and paws. Creatures of myth and terror, snow lions, apex predators of Glosiris 9. Intelligent, deadly, unapproachable. But they didn't attack. One approached slowly, snout lowered, golden eyes glowing in the low light. It sniffed at his blood, then let out a long, deep exhale, almost a sigh. Kor blinked. "I remember you," he whispered. He had seen this one before. Months ago, during a solo mission when a cub had been caught in a net trap. Against protocol, Kor had freed it. The adult lions had watched from the ridgeline. He thought they would kill him then and there. But they hadn't. They had simply vanished. Now they had come back. The largest lion moved behind him, crouching low. Another took position at his side. Then, slowly, with surprising gentleness, they began to push him, maneuvering his body up onto the back of the biggest one like a stretcher. He grunted in agony but didn't fight. They carried him into the storm. The warmth of the lion's body seeped through his suit. Their pace was deliberate, even graceful, despite the terrain. Snow hissed around them, but the wind no longer reached him. He was in the eye of something ancient. Something powerful. They reached a cavern carved by time and heat beneath a collapsed glacier shelf. Inside it was dim, quiet, and strangely warm. Thermal steam rose from cracks in the rock, natural geothermal vents. The lions had made this place theirs. Kor's suit pinged a critical alert. Blood loss at 34%. Internal trauma. He blinked against the HUD, trying to issue commands. One of the lions nudged his pack open with a massive paw and withdrew a field med injector with its teeth, dropping it beside him. He managed to grab it and jab it into his thigh. A rush of synthetic stabilizers surged through his bloodstream, dulling the pain, slowing the bleed. He lay there, shivering, staring at the curved ceiling of ice above. The lions settled around him like sentries. His thoughts burned. They tried to kill him. Not because he was weak, not because he was reckless, but because he was human. Because he could think beyond doctrine. Because he didn't need a hive mind to survive. Because wild things listened when he spoke. He'd been written off. But he wasn't dead. Not yet. And the ones who betrayed him? They were still out there. Kor closed his eyes. The lions lay still but alert, golden eyes reflecting the low geothermal glow. Let the storm rage. Let them think him buried. Tomorrow the hunt would begin. The warmth from the geothermal vents did little to ease the pain pulsing through Mason Kor's side. He sat against the cave wall, back braced against a smooth outcrop of ice, teeth clenched as he peeled back his damaged suit. The auto-sealant had done its best, but the blast had torn deep, through armor, through muscle. The med injector had slowed the bleeding, but without proper treatment, infection or worse was only days away. One of the snow lions stirred beside him, its head the size of a boulder, crowned with thick, snow-matted fur that clumped like dreadlocks around its ears and jaw. Its massive chest rose and fell in deep, steady rhythm. Another lay curled at the cave mouth, half hidden by shadow, eyes open and alert, watching the storm outside. The third, smaller, younger, paced silently near the back of the cavern, occasionally chuffing in frustration as if it too remembered why they were here. Kor couldn't stop staring at them. Months ago he had only glimpsed them through rifle scopes and thermal lenses, blurs in the snow, warnings in the dark. Even the Accord's top predators avoided them. Biologists thought them solitary, territorial, incapable of domestication. That part at least was true. These beasts weren't tamed. They had chosen this. He remembered that day now. The net trap, the cub, its high-pitched cries that echoed through the ice fields. He'd broken orders to save it, slicing the restraints with his survival knife and letting the creature limp away into the storm. He hadn't known if it would live or if he would. But the pride had remembered. And now they had returned, not just as watchers but guardians. He grunted, pushing himself to his feet. Pain flared, and the eldest lion rose with him, mirroring his movements, eyes steady. There was no leash, no command. Just an understanding. Kor staggered to a gear crate salvaged from a downed beacon pod one of the lions had dragged in. Inside was a compact flameless heater, a broken satellite transceiver, and his survival knife, scored, dulled but intact. He unrolled the map projector and flicked it on. A faint hologram flickered to life across the ice wall, a jagged terrain overlay of Glaciaris 9's northern hemisphere. The alien expedition had been heading southeast toward the deep ice mineral fields. Kor's last recorded position was near Ridgepoint Omega, where the terrain dipped sharply into a network of fissures and ravines. He ran a hand through his sweat-matted hair, jaw tightening. Vurask had left him to die there. No tribunal. No confrontation. Just a silent execution dressed as an accident. Kor understood now. The Accord didn't want humans like him. They wanted manageable variables. Controlled assets. Kor had always been a problem, skipping protocol to save injured fauna, adapting unapproved tactics during scout trials, refusing to sign onto mission telepathy networks that dulled instinct in favor of groupthink logic. Too unpredictable. Too human. A growl broke his thoughts. The younger lion, lighter in color with small scars around its right flank, stood by the entrance, eyes fixed outside. The wind had shifted. The storm was slowing. It was time. Kor tightened the pressure bandage under his chest plate and stepped into the cold. The lions followed without a sound. Outside, the world was a landscape carved by war and weather. Jagged peaks loomed in the distance, glacier veins crisscrossed the land like giant claws, and every gust of wind carried the whisper of death. He activated his visor's thermal sweep. Faint heat traces lingered near the southern slope, old but recent enough to follow. If the alien team had left a trail, he would find it. He moved carefully, signaling with 2 fingers for the lions to fan out. They obeyed without hesitation, splitting formation like practiced soldiers. It was strange, working with creatures that couldn't be ordered, only understood. Their communication was instinctive, head tilts, tail flicks, low rumbles that said more than words could. He didn't need to train them. They already knew what needed to be done. An hour passed. Then 2. At the edge of a frozen ravine, the eldest lion halted. Kor knelt beside it, brushing aside snow to reveal shattered alloy, fragmented ration packs, a crushed power cell, and a broken thermal marker bearing the Accord's emblem. He scanned the area. More signs, boot prints partially obscured by snowfall, melted divots from plasma burners used to cut ice. They had camped here briefly. But there was something else. Blood. Not his. A splatter of dull violet, smeared across the rock face. Not enough for a fatal wound, just a scratch, a graze, but it was a start. He followed it until the wind buried the trail. Then the lions took the lead. They moved like phantoms, noses close to the ground, their movements precise and deliberate. Every so often one would pause, sniff the air, and glance back toward him as if to say, "We're close." Kor's mind drifted as they walked. He thought of Earth, not the cities, not the spaceports, but the quiet stretches of Alaskan wilderness where he'd trained alone before joining the Accord. Where silence had meant survival. Where he'd first learned that animals didn't need words to trust. Now he was relying on that bond to survive again. No, not survive. Strike back. By nightfall they reached a glacial basin. A thin line of smoke drifted skyward, just visible against the violet haze of the planet's twin moons. Kor signaled a halt. He studied the terrain. The aliens had chosen well, tight perimeter, elevated ridge, proximity to natural thermal vents, but it wouldn't be enough. Not against him. Not with what followed him through the snow. He unhooked his pack, retrieved a short-range drone and sent it aloft. Its camera fed him a silent visual, 3 figures, 2 standing, 1 seated near a heating node. Chell, Zex, and another he didn't recognize. No sign of Vurask. He clicked his tongue softly. Too early to strike. Too many unknowns. The lions waited beside him, patient. Suddenly the drone's feed flickered, then died. A pulse field. They were sweeping for scouts. Kor's fingers curled into fists. He would need to get closer. See for himself. The lions melted into the shadows as he crept forward, using the jagged ice for cover, footfalls silent. At 50 meters he froze. He could hear them. Don't care what Vurask said, Chell was saying. If Kor survived, he'll come for us. He won't survive long, Zex rasped. He was bleeding out. Even a human can't survive a gut wound in a blizzard. Chell clicked her mandibles. You saw the signal flares. Something's been following us. It's the storm playing tricks. Storms don't leave claw prints. Kor slipped back into the dark, heart pounding. He could wait. Let fear do the work. Let their own words rot them from the inside. He returned to the ridge where the lions waited, pacing in silence. Tomorrow he would begin. He would teach them the lesson humans never stopped learning. When you leave someone to die in the cold, make sure the cold doesn't bring them back. The first to die was Zex. It happened in silence, without warning, without flare, only blood and snow and the vanishing of a body into a blizzard's teeth. Kor had watched from the edge of the glacier ridge, crouched beneath a jag of ice, his heartbeat a steady, quiet drum against his ribs. Zex had wandered away from the camp perimeter to relieve himself, muttering to himself, distracted, careless. The younger snow lion, a quick-footed blur of white muscle and shadow, slipped through the falling snow like a whisper. One pounce, a blur of claws and crushing jaws, and the crawl was gone. No scream. No fight. Only the sound of dragging as the lion pulled the corpse into a snowbank. Kor moved fast, erasing the signs of struggle. By the time Chell called out Zex's name, There was nothing left but fresh snowfall and silence. Confusion, not alarm, spread through the alien camp. Chell barked orders into the dark, her voice sharp with nerves. But there were no answers. No footprints. No blood trail. Just fear, coiled and tightening. They'd start watching the shadows now. That was fine. Let them. Core knew how to live inside fear. It was air to him. He returned to the snow lions without a word. The younger one chuffed low in his throat, proud. The others did not praise or punish. They simply waited for Core's next move. That kind of obedience wasn't trained. It was earned. He studied the terrain again, mapping out the next phase. Chell would likely double security. She was disciplined, unlike Vurask. If she assumed this was an animal attack, she'd try to move camp. Maybe call for evac. That would be his moment. Let them try to run. Glacyrus 9 didn't forgive runners. By dawn, Chell had made her decision. She packed quickly, barking low orders to the remaining team. The third figure Core hadn't recognized the night before was a communications officer. Half-frozen, quiet, scared. Young. Core decided to spare him. He shadowed them through the ridges, using the lions to fan out and isolate their movement. They began to understand, slowly, what was happening. Zex hadn't wandered off. Something had taken him. Something smart. Something that didn't make mistakes. Chell tried to deploy flares, motion sensors, perimeter alarms. Core disabled each one silently. He wanted them to feel watched. To feel the inevitability pressing down on them like snow on a brittle roof. By nightfall the second strike came. Core himself moved this time. He waited until they paused to rest near a split in the glacier shelf. The younger lion let out a low warning growl from above, perched like a gargoyle on a jagged ice ledge. Chell had begun setting up a sensor beacon when Core stepped out of the storm, face half covered by his frost-scorched hood. Chell spun, raising her sidearm. He didn't speak. He threw. A concussive flare grenade hit the snow just behind her, bright, not lethal, but blinding. She fired wildly, and Core was already moving, ducking beneath her shot and tackling her into the snow. The lions didn't intervene. They didn't need to. This was his moment. He had her pinned in seconds. "I told you I'd come back," he said coldly. Chell thrashed, but the wind was knocked out of her. Her mandibles clicked in panic. "You were dead. We saw the blood. We left a marker." "You left a marker for a corpse. Not a man." Core tightened his grip on her throat but didn't squeeze. "Where's Vurask?" Her breath trembled. "He split from us 2 days ago. Said he was going to finish the report early. He left us to clean up. He said you were unstable. Do I look unstable to you?" Chell swallowed, staring past him at the lions now circling in the gloom, their yellow eyes gleaming. "You brought them. You command them?" "No one commands them. They choose who to follow." She blinked, realization dawning. "You survived. Because of them." "No," he said. "I survived because I'm human. They're just a part of it now." He rose, stepping back. "Run. Go back to your ship. Tell them what happened here. What happens when you try to bury someone alive." Chell staggered to her feet, breath fogging in the air, wide-eyed and shaking. She didn't speak again. She simply turned and fled into the storm. The lions let her pass. Core watched her disappear, then looked at the communications officer, still huddled behind a shattered supply crate. The kid hadn't drawn his weapon. Hadn't even moved. "You saw what you needed to," Core said, voice low. "I'm not here for blood. I'm here for him." The boy nodded slowly. The hunt resumed. Vurask hadn't gone far. Core found traces of him within hours. A discarded heater unit, a broken ration kit. Footprints too crisp for the storm to have softened yet. He followed them into the ice canyon, a natural corridor of jagged blue and shimmering frost that narrowed with each step. The lions tensed. Core raised a hand. Ahead, through a crack in the ice wall, he saw the glow of a campfire, illegal on Glacyrus 9. It wasn't just reckless. It was desperate. He crept closer. Vurask sat slouched against a rock, helmet off, staring into the flame like a man already dead. His rifle lay across his knees. He didn't flinch when Core approached. "You survived," Vurask said softly, not looking up. Core stood at the edge of the firelight. "Didn't think I would?" "No," Vurask said. "I knew you might. That was the problem." Core stepped forward. The lions didn't follow yet. He hadn't summoned them. "Not yet." "You always hated us," he said. "Humans?" "Me." Vurask's eyes were glassy, empty. "You terrify the Accord Corps. You're kind. You push the envelope. You act before consensus. You adapt where others freeze. You bring chaos. And worse, you thrive in it. Kor knelt beside the fire. So you tried to snuff it out. I tried to contain it, Virask whispered. You wouldn't listen. You wouldn't submit. I wasn't supposed to submit. Virask looked up finally, and for the first time, there was no contempt in his eyes. Just fear. You're not like the others. You're more dangerous than they realize. I know, Kor said. Then he stood. The lions moved from the dark, stepping into view one by one, their paws silent, their breath steaming. Virask didn't resist. He simply closed his eyes. Kor paused. Then turned away. No, he said. I want you to live. I want them to see you. To hear your voice when you tell them what happens when you betray one of us. Virask opened his eyes slowly, confusion flickering. You're letting me go? No, Kor said, voice ice cold. I'm sending you back with a message. He stepped into the storm without another word. The lions followed, forming a silent procession behind him. The fire sputtered behind them, then died. And above, the wind howled again. The Accord Tribunal chamber on Station Virelis 3 was built to intimidate. Vaulted walls of obsidian alloy arced overhead like the ribs of a colossal beast, and the light from the ceiling came in thin, white shafts, casting deep shadows across the polished black floor. Seated at the far end were 12 representatives from various species, each perched behind a crescent-shaped platform that loomed over the room like a judgment made solid. And in the center of it all stood Mason Kor. His survival suit had been cleaned, repaired, and patched, but the scarring on his face hadn't faded. His posture was stiff but unbroken. Even with the grand architecture rising around him, he looked calm. A man who had stood in far worse places and walked away. Behind him, the snow lions sat in silence, 3 living mountains of fur and muscle, still as statues, their golden eyes watching the council with more intelligence than anyone dared admit aloud. They hadn't been brought in as evidence. They hadn't been caged or restrained. They had simply followed him through the station gates and no one had dared stop them. Kor didn't speak. Not yet. Not until they asked. It was the Sarin representative, a crystalline-bodied being with light refracting through its limbs, who finally broke the silence. You stand accused not of wrongdoing, it said, voice shimmering in tones like breaking glass, but of disruption. Your actions, while personally justified, have destabilized diplomatic operations across multiple sectors. Kor let the words hang in the air before responding. Is that what we're calling attempted murder now? Destabilization? Several of the council shifted uncomfortably. Virask sat in the gallery below, head bowed, his arm bound in a pressure brace. He looked smaller here, diminished. The fire that once fueled his arrogance had been extinguished. He told the truth under questioning. Every detail. Every betrayal. But the Accord didn't care about betrayal. Not really. They cared about image. Control. Protocol. We recognize, continued the Sarin, that Commander Virask acted beyond authorization. He will be reprimanded. However, the presence of hostile megafauna within a diplomatic tribunal. They're not hostile, Kor interrupted. His voice echoed across the chamber, sharp and certain. They're witnesses. A low murmur rippled through the delegates. Kor stepped forward, hands behind his back. You sent me to Glaciris 9 to chart terrain. I did that. You paired me with a team that tried to kill me. I survived that. And now, instead of asking why your officers tried to erase me, you're worried I brought the wrong kind of guests into your house. They are dangerous, one delegate muttered. They're loyal, Kor corrected. More than Virask ever was. More than many of your people have been. The elder lion huffed as if agreeing. The youngest flicked its tail slowly, golden eyes locked on the council. Another representative, a hunched, bone-plated creature from the Nokhel Dominion, leaned forward. You claim they are intelligent, cooperative, that they understood your survival was mutually beneficial. That's unprecedented. Kor nodded. And that's exactly what you fear. He took a step closer, voice calm but unyielding. You're scared because you don't understand how I lived. How a human, alone, wounded, without reinforcements, emerged from a storm your own people wouldn't survive. You're scared because it means you might be wrong about us. We're not scared, snapped another delegate. Yes, you are, Kor replied evenly. Because we don't just endure. We adapt. You sent me to the edge of death. And the wild chose me. These lions, he gestured back, they didn't follow me because I was the strongest or smartest. They followed me because I respected them. I treated them like equals. Like living minds. You've built this alliance on rules and hierarchy, protocols and probability. But humans were built in the wild. We don't rise because of safety. We rise through survival. He paused, letting the words settle. You sent me into the storm. And I brought it back with me. Silence again. Then the youngest counselor, a lithe, feline creature draped in accord insignia, spoke. What exactly is it that you want, Lieutenant Core? He looked around the room. I want the record corrected. I want the truth filed, not just about what happened but why. I want Vurask's betrayal recognized for what it was. Not buried beneath a statement of unfortunate judgment. He turned to face the side gallery. And I want every human scout across the frontier to know that if someone buries them in the cold, the Accord doesn't get to just move on. More murmurs. One of the lions let out a low rumble, a sound that reverberated through the floor like distant thunder. The Saran delegate leaned back, crystalline fingers steepled. The tribunal will consider your request. Temporarily, you are reinstated under probationary observer status. However, given your unconventional associations, you are not to return to active exploration without additional oversight. Core smirked. I won't be needing a reassignment. A brief silence followed. You're resigning? The Nockel delegate asked. I'm leaving, Core clarified. But I'm not walking away. He turned, whistled once, low, sharp. The lions rose, padding to his side, their footfalls soundless on the polished floor. Core continued, voice steady. There's still land out there uncharted. Places no Accord drone will ever see. Creatures no biologist will ever understand because they can't be dissected. They have to be respected. That's where I'm going. He looked back one last time. And you're going to follow my reports. Not because you want to, but because you'll need to. With that, he walked out. The tribunal watched in silence as the man and the beasts vanished down the corridor, swallowed by shadow and silence alike. The cold returned quickly once Core landed back on Glaciris 9. The shuttle had barely touched down before the wind reached for him again, familiar, biting, alive. He stepped out into the white, the crunch of snow beneath his boots a rhythm he hadn't realized he'd missed. The lions moved ahead of him, already fanning out, reclaiming the territory like they'd never left. Core glanced up. Twin moons hung heavy in the sky, casting silver-blue hues across the ridgelines. He wasn't afraid of the silence anymore. In it he found clarity. He set up a small camp. No barriers, no signals. Just him, the beasts, and the wide-open frost. Later that night, sitting near a heatstone, he activated his recorder. A blinking green light on the drone above flickered to life. This is Mason Core. Field log. Entry 001. His voice was steady, deliberate. Status: voluntary civilian explorer, non-Accord aligned. Location: Northern Quadrant, Glacial Basin 37 Chi. Accompanied by 3 indigenous companions, species classified as Panthera glacius. He looked to the lions as they lay beside him, resting but aware. Behavioral markers remain consistent. Cooperative, emotionally reactive, highly intelligent. Capable of understanding symbolic gesture and long-term pattern recognition. Continued study essential. He paused. Recommendation to any future explorer. If you want to survive here, don't try to conquer. Learn. Listen. Respect. He clicked the recorder off. Then he looked up at the stars. There were still places left untouched. Still truths the Accord didn't own. And out here, with beasts by his side and snow under his boots, Mason Core would uncover every single one. They tried to kill him in the storm. But the storm remembered him. And it had given him back to the world, sharper, colder, and ready.